Welcome back to Out There with Johnny. I'm going to kick off this series discussing for a while about astronomy and specifically EAA, which stands for Electronically Assisted Astronomy. I have been doing this since the early days when we first discovered that webcams, the old external webcams, could be modified to actually adapt to a telescope. Now, they were mostly good for bright things like the moon, some brighter stars, maybe some very, very bright DSOs. You would see a little bit of the Orion Nebula. Very pioneering type of technology. And then Sony came along with a security camera called the SBC 2000. And it was discovered that that modified actually produced some really nice, colorful, real-time or near real-time views of DSOs, known as deep sky objects. And then it just, from there, it kind of took off. People realized that this, even though it was a niche, there was a technology here that people wanted. So Malacam and a couple other companies, they started developing cameras specifically for the purpose of EAA. And they did quite well. Now, because they were analog, it required you to have the camera. You had to have an analog to digital converter between that and the computer. So you ended up with cables going everywhere to supply everything you needed, the power, so forth and so on. And you would sit out there with a PC and laptop, and then you would see these things on the screen, pretty much in near real time. And as things progressed, the cameras got better, the technology got better, the chips got better. Low light became a huge thing in all the communities, no matter what the camera was. Cell phones today are focusing on low light. And there's actually wonderful astronomy pictures coming out of cell phones that are just doing what we call afocal through the eyepiece of a telescope. So it's exploded everywhere now, to the point that what I want to focus on is how I set up, what I set up, and the products I use. And what I want to do is talk a little bit about the history of one particular product that I've grown very fond of, that I use all the time. There's a company in China that started years ago called ZWO. When they first came out with cameras, like everybody in the United States, poo-poo, it's Chinese, it's going to be junk, so forth and so on. Well, now they are extremely popular. There are literally thousands of these cameras all over the world, and they do a fantastic job of photographing deep sky objects, planets, so forth and so on, depending what model you have. They have cooled, non-cooled, they have extremely nice professional level cameras. And I have been using these now for several years. And one of the things I want to talk about is, the cumbersome of cables, lugging your PC out there, plugging it in, or depending on the battery life, how long it would last. And I want to discuss the difference between AP, astrophotography, and EAA, which is the electronically assisted astronomy. I focus on EAA. I dabble a little bit in AP, but my biggest deal is I don't have the patience to do AP, because we're talking hours and hours of data collection. We're talking stacking hundreds of photos and a lot of computer power to make this happen. And a lot of people like that. And I definitely appreciate the photos that I see from Trevor Jones and some other people's, Nico, that are out there on the internet, because those are great to look at. They're great to review and discuss. However, my passion is EAA. And that's what I'm going to be talking about in this next few videos in this series setting up. And one of the things I want to talk about is a product from ZWO. You gotta find it here, called ASI Air. Now, these came out several years ago. This is the very first revision, and it's a plastic box. It had a HDMI out. It had, what do we have here? We had camera audio hookups. We had what we call the micro USB. And then on the back, you had ability to do Ethernet and then USB ports. Now, when this first came out, you know, it was like, well, this is great. What does it do? And you have your SD card here. What does this thing do? Well, what it did, it allowed you to connect your cameras directly to this. And so your camera is connected via different cables, depending on the camera. And then this would reside somewhere near your telescope. Now, if you notice, I have Velcro on the back of this because I had to find some place to stick it. Because what it did, instead of having 4 or 5 cables coming away from your telescope and going to your computer, now all your cables are located to this, and then you had 1 cable going to your computer and 1 cable going to your power source. It did reduce a little bit. You still had to have a power source for your mount, you still had to have a power source for this, and you had a power source for your laptop if you were running out of battery. The other thing with this early model is you had to have a 12-volt DC to 5-volt DC converter. So you had this going to this going to a power supply, and then cables off of this going to your cameras. And it's a Raspberry Pi that operated this whole thing. So a couple years later, I believe, from this, they went to the ASI Pro. And this is what I've been using for the last couple of years. Now, it went from plastic to metal, machined metal. It also has a dovetail fixture that you can move where you needed to move it to allow it to go into a dovetail saddle that most telescopes have. And it still has the micro SD card here that contained the operating system, so forth and so on. And the big difference is it had power outlets here. So you had your main power come in here, you turn it on, it generated a Wi-Fi, your camera's still plugged into here, your power now plugs into here for your mount. So now I have 1 wire running to this for power. Everything else runs from this to the telescope or the mount with this mounted on the telescope. And I'll show this later on as we get into more details. This thing has been wonderful because I wirelessly hooked this up to my tablet and I control everything from the tablet, including seeing what the camera captures, the live stacking, so forth and so on. This was great, and I've been using this solely. It does plate solving, it does guiding. It's all-inclusive package that just simplifies everything down to the point that I'm out, I'm set up, I'm looking at stuff in mere minutes and not an hour's worth of setting up time like I used to have to do. I mean, even the polar alignment is so quick and so simple, it's unbelievable. And again, some of these terms may not mean a lot to you. You will understand it when I'm out doing the video when I'm outside setting up and showing you how this works. But first generation, second generation, what's in here? Let's find out. Just got this in the mail, actually UPS, and this is what we have. Third generation ZWO ASI Air. I've been reading about this. I've been wanting one. I would want to try it. Zal graciously accepted me as one of their testers. So I am going to be testing this a lot, provided we have clear nights. And let's see what we have here. So we open it up. First thing we're greeted with here is a card. And it says, thank you. Thanks to all ASI Air users for your continued support. Clear skies. Clear skies is a greeting and parting for all things when we talk astronomy. Let's open this up. Here's the new one. As you can see, it has a Wi-Fi extender on it. This is going to make all the difference in the world, because with the Generation 2, while it was great, the range of the Wi-Fi, I found that if I was set up in my front yard walking in the garage, I would lose signal and run back out so I didn't interrupt anything with the tablet. So, and again, it comes with the mount to go on to the saddle of the telescope or whatever you have to mount it to. They changed it a little bit, so you can see here, this is the old one. You can see it's a little bit thinner. Still kind of weighs about the same, but I can move the saddle from the bottom where it's at now, or I can put it here as needed. Still has the power outputs, which is great, and it still has all the USB and Ethernet connections here in the back, and of course power in, and then your on-off switch here. Now the big difference is here is all the operating system things located inside here, but you have the ability now to put an external micro, and I'm assuming that it will see that and allow you to transfer images, so forth and so on, to the micro. And it has a DLSR control. So if you're using a DLSR, it will control your shutter by the program that you use. You can use either a tablet, you can use your cell phone, and you can use a PC to control this thing. I'm really excited about getting out there and using this. And this is the ASI Plus. This was called the ASI Pro. And this was just the ASI Air. So as we've graduated in capability, process capability, functionality, as we've moved along, we've gone from ASI Air to Pro and now to Plus. And I'm really excited about giving this a shot. Now let's see what else is in here. All right, we've got cabling. So they're very good about supplying cabling. So here is the cable that you use for most of your cameras. It's USB 3.0. And here we've got more cables. Let's see what we have here. We have various power cables, various connections, looks like various lengths as well. More power cables and an extender. ZWO is very, very generous in supplying you with material. It gives you a lot of options. Now I have a quick start guide here, and then an activation guide here. So that's basically the quick and easy opening of the box. And it says here, as easy as 1, 2, 3. It really is. And if you're graduating from an earlier model to this model, it should just be a one-for-one swap and you're off and running. Now, the big change that I've noticed is that with the software, when you plug things into your DC outlets, the software will actually show you what each line is doing and how much power it's consuming. I'm excited to see that. So that is the unboxing of the new ASI Air. Now, the next video, I'm going to show you how it's all connected to the actual telescope, the mount, and to the tablet. And then at night, we're going to go out, we're going to power it all up, and we're going to sit and watch just how easy this is and how great it does. Now keep in mind, I'm in Bortle 8 skies. It's a bright city skies. And it's amazing what I can still see in real time, or what we call near real time, through a telescope on my tablet. And again, on a phone if you desire, or even a PC. I prefer the tablet, and I will show you that setup as well. So this concludes this particular video showing you this ASI Air Plus, this new product that's coming out. And I cannot wait to show you how it's connected, how it's used, and see some actual results. All right, thank you.